like it or not, people like it or not, is a highly institutionalized, adaptable creature.
Late 2003 was very characterized as negotiating bargain. It laid out 7 issues that Iran would have to be prepared to address. It laid out 7 issues that the U.S. would be prepared to address, and it made some suggestions about process, how to get this kind of process started.
در این قسمت شما حقایق وحشتناکی را میشنوید که چگونه جمهوری اسلامی به آمریکا کمک میکرده ظاهراً که طالبان را تحویل بده و در جنگ افغانستان کمک هایی که انجام شده اینها توضیح میدند. اینها هم گروه دیگری از لابیستای جمهوری اسلامی هستند که سعی میکنن افکار مردم و ما را متزلزل کنن به بهانه اینکه آمریکا در حال صحبت هست با جمهوری اسلامی. خودتون گوش کنید و ما دوباره برمیگردیم به کنفرانس دیگری.
The military option might be completely off the table. We can't actually afford to attack them, and that we've lost the will to do that. How do you see that?
Wrong. No, in fact, I would even disagree with the ambassador a little bit. The military option is not on the table. It's probably inappropriate to say. The military option is on the vice president's desk. That is not normal military planning. Plans don't go to the executive branch until things are getting close. I don't think the election has affected that. There is, what I have done most of, trying to explain how the administration has gotten where I think they are.
این آقای سم گاردنر هست که ادوایزر به اصطلاح مشاور پنتاگونه. نفر اول دست راست آقای تاماس پیکرینگ، امباسادور تاماس پیکرینگ، که فکر میکنم تنها کسی باشه که با بقیه ها مخالف بود و بیشتر هم عقیده ما ایرانیان آزادی خواه است.
Military option not on the table, but on the vice president's desk.
On the vice president's desk. What does that mean?
Going to be specific on no, literally from press reports, good journalists, we know that the military have done their thing with the plan, and the plan has gone to the vice president's office.
Remember, the plan, that's, you sure. Have plans for lots of things.
Right.
You're saying this is different.
This is different. Plans don't go to the vice president. That's a normal course.
So your view would be there's at least a faction of the administration that wants to attack Iran.
Yes, clearly. And I think there are a couple parts of it we have to understand. One of them is, and again, I would disagree with the ambassador. I remember, and we've been told this in a number of books that have been released about the administration. This is not about the Iranian nuclear program. In fact, that may be just the cover, as it was in Iraq, for other things. This is about the Iranian involvement in Iraq. We'll talk more and more about that. It's about the Iranian support of Hezbollah. I would argue, even if we found a solution to the Iranian nuclear enrichment, we would still find the administration not be willing to go down that road. Because, you know, from things written about the way the vice president thinks, when anybody attacks the United States, Iran has done that in numbers of cases. They're doing that right now in Iran. They have to be punished, or others will follow and do the same thing. So I think this is
okay. Let's follow that up.
Okay.
Do it. what does that military option look like? You've war gamed this. You've done a number of war games, both professionally, in service and out of service. And you did the most famous of which was the series you did with the Atlantic Monthly with James Fallows. That was 2 years ago now. What do you think the plan looks like now? If we were to push it, what would we do?
One of the reasons why the option is relatively attractive is because it's easy to do. It's not an invasion. It's not the kind of thing that people had talked about at one time. It's not certainly like Thunder Run to Baghdad. Penetrations of Iranian airspace, and I would bet the president has been advised very low casualties or no casualties. If I started to make it sound attractive, it will punish Iran. Now, Flynt said we can't invest it. We don't know where the targets are. We don't know the unknowns. But if you understand the objective is to punish Iran, not just deal with the nuclear program, you don't need to know where the targets are. Because it is the purpose of showing you can't treat the United States this way. And one of the arguments, I think it's going to become more and more apparent, because we are going to see more and more stuff released about the Iranian involvement in Iraq. And it will start with that argument, that they are the part of the problem we have there now. They are. But it's going to become more and more apparent, and the pressure is going to grow to put that out.
So we do that. We do, let's say, if it comes to this, we do 5 nights. We can talk about 750 game plans. The problem is what happens next. Ambassador Pickering was talking about this. What do the Iranians do on day 6?
The Iranians have a notion that really, I'm sure they wouldn't use this word, but it goes back to the Cold War, which is what we used to call horizontal escalation. In other words, if you can't take on the bad guys directly, you take them on in an indirect way. You couldn't take on the Soviets in Central Europe, so the idea was you went to the northern flank. Their concept of this kind of deterrence
همطور که ملاحظه میکنید امباسادور پیکرینگ با فاصله با بقیه ها نشسته، چون اون 3 نفر دیگر بسیار لابیستی ایرانی ها دارن میکنن.
Just to give you an example, the connection between Iran and Muqtada al-Sadr could lead one to conclude that the Facilities Protection Service in Iraq could target the both north and south.
ما برگشتیم به اونجا چون سوال و جواب های اون سالن شروع شده و سوالاتی شده. من اینو قطع کردم، اون یکی رو برای شما گذاشتم که چون هر کدوم از این کنفرانس ها 5-6 ساعت شاید طول بکشه و زمان این که بتوانیم همش رو با هم به شما نشون بدیم نمیشه. به همین جهت تیکه تیکه من از این ور و اون ور به شما نشون میدم. در اینجا یک مخالف، یک مأمور جمهوری اسلامی برخاسته و طبق معمول اختلال ایجاد کرده. صدایش را حتما میشنوید. ما در این موقعیت به برنامه دیگری میریم که باز هم ما موی دماغ این لابیستای جمهوری اسلامی شدیم.
My name is Ahura Pirouz Yazdi. I'm the president of Hakha Movement. Hakha Movement for Freedom and Democracy. This movement exists 2,564 years since Cyrus the Great. So, it was painful for me and all Iranian to hear whenever you want to talk about Mullahs or Islamic regime, you mention Iranians. Sir, gentlemen, Iranians are Persians. They do not speak Arabic. They are not Islamic. Their country has been invaded by a group of mullahs, non-Iranian. My people are hostage, and today you are...
the question.
Okay, the question is, 70% of my people are young people, not Islam. They are ready to regime change. The question is why the United States doesn't support Persian Iranian people who want regime change and want to get rid of these mullahs as soon as possible. Last 6 days they showed again another demonstration all over Iran, and as a matter of fact I called on my TV station twice.
We understand, Mr. Pirouz, your question, and we'll go on now to the one in the back.
همینطور که برای یک چند لحظه تا بقیه بزن اون
Let me go ahead. First, I've lived in Moscow long enough to know that explaining Russians is impossible. Secondly, they are an important player and will continue to be. To get them to play on Iran, my view has been that we have to do what I think Flynt and I have suggested, maybe in 2 different ways, but roughly along the same lines. We have to say there is a willingness on the part of the United States to conduct serious negotiations across the breadth of the issues that divide Iran, the United States, or maybe Iran from the rest of the world. And size of the stockpile, which is a little bit along the same routes that I was talking before. We will not give up security if we give up nuclear weapons. The United States now has the capability to do as much destruction with small conventional weapons and precision targeting as we ever had. That's the first thing. The second thing is I want to take that notion and raise Flynt one step, which is maybe we need a grander great bargain, which is what the Europeans have suggested, and I've heard the Iranians say this too, which is let's talk about a non-nuclear
decade or so, indicated in various ways that they would like greater openness in their political order, greater openness in their economic lives. I do not accept the assessment that Iran is for that reason because there is a certain level of discontent in the society that Iran is in some sort of pre-revolutionary state and that we can get rid of this regime in some meaningful time frame for dealing with our strategic problems with Iran. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why I think that. Some of them laid out in the paper. I would just highlight one, that Iranian society is very, very highly stratified society, and there is no single rallying point for opposition to the Islamic Republic. Yes, students have periodically, cropped up and with various levels of intensity trying to demonstrate, express their dissatisfaction with the status quo, and these have basically never gotten any kind of nationwide support, following, reaction, resonance, all of the kinds of things that might indicate that Iran could be in some pre-revolutionary state. And, as far as working with, Iranian expatriates to try and bring about regime change in Iran, I mean, good God, we went down this road. In Iraq, I would hope there's some sort of learning curve.
Okay, thank you. Learning curve. Now, somebody, the very patient gentleman back there is standing, half standing, fully standing.
Notion that there are rational actors on the other side that can create a stable system of deterrence. But I would like to ask, President, a little bit more clearly, would it be a tremendous danger, nevertheless, to try to create yet another balancing power system? Because we've had that for some time. It's been extremely explosive. It's created a Middle East that is similar to Europe between the two world wars. What would be the argument that we would have to go that route rather than going
for the regional security arrangement, as Ambassador Pickering pointed out. And I want to say particularly mindful of some of the voices that we've heard recently from some of the Sunni states in the region that basically want to warning or seeking to create a larger regional war out of the disaster that we're currently viewing in Iraq.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. So let's take the woman back to the left, and we'll come forward.
Hi, my name is Christine Murray, and I'm going to ask a difficult, troubling question. Real men don't need nuclear weapons, and Israel has nuclear weapons, and we've not followed the nuclear treaty, and yet we want to have nuclear Middle East. I'm confused as to how we can ask that.
Okay, and then the gentleman right in front, in the row right in front of you.
Chairman of the Enterprise Service. There was very little comment about the domestic political situation aside from what the Colonel and Flynt said about Elliot Abrams. I mean, the last month has been fairly dramatic. You've got elections and you have Gates replacing Rumsfeld. I'd like to hear the bureaucratic implications of that on a possible attack on Iran. But from the polls, what seems to be a notable collapse or ongoing collapse of support of confidence for Bush, particularly among Republicans, according to the latest polls. And you have been really...
Hillary Mann Leverett. I'm Hillary Mann Leverett. I'm a former State Department official, as well as Mrs. Flynt Leverett. My question actually goes also to Flynt, and it also relates to
some other time.
Well, what I think is important is last week the New York Times actually did publish an op-ed on Iran, and it was by the administration's leading outside expert champion of invading Iraq, who now also takes the stand that not only should we not pursue comprehensive strategic talks with Iran writ large, as you recommend, but he also dismisses the idea of having talks with Iran about Iraq. In his piece, and he also is subject to pre-clearance restrictions because he formerly was employed by the CIA as well, he actually talks about intelligence sharing between Afghanistan and Iran, but he holds that up as not applicable to the situation with Iraq because the Iranians didn't cause the problems in Iraq that we now have, and therefore they shouldn't really be counted on to resolve those problems. Could you take a step back and tell us about, to compare the strategic environment at the time, what was better or worse for the U.S. between 2001 and 2003 when we were talking to the Iranians about Afghanistan, and why that would not be so useful today?
All right, so two questions. I guess they're both kind of put into Flynt's court on this one.
All right. Let me take the sensitive question first, at least because it's from my wife, and then I'll go back to the self-question. Yeah, I think that there are some very important differences between the current situation in Iraq and the current situation in Afghanistan, and people like Ken Pollack, or even, I'm sorry to say, Secretary Fake conversation about fundamentally restructuring their relationship with the United States.
Put in 15 seconds to tip off.
Yes. Basically, I think that it really striking to me. I've heard 30 pieces for publication through the CIA since I left government, and the agency on its own has never tried to change the word of whatever I have submitted. And for some reason, this week, the National Security Council needs to intervene in this process. And my understanding is that Elliott and others at the National Security Council have become, quite incensed at my criticizing the way that this administration has, in my view, mishandled a lot of issues. Their policy toward Iran being one of the most prominent, the opportunity.
The mafia of Center for American Progress at the Century Foundation. Jeannie Troll. Thank our panel, thank our presenter, thank our moderator. Nuclear power, the agreement with the nuclear weapon states under the United States is a period of time without discussion about base drawdown. There was a base drawdown.
But in the last 3 years, I'm concerned about how low can you go, why could they make the stock levels a lot smaller. That concern, I think, has disappeared, but certainly drifted out of the retention rate of public.
Stay with the mic. I don't know if they're ready. They're looking at what's going on in France, and they at this point. It is. The Iranians themselves want at this point. They do, but they're not going to go. I agree with that. Except the part about how much they want it. There's not going to be, it's not a big revolutionary situation. They're not going to take the streets. There's not going to be well, I hope you're right. That's the case of kiss of death to an Iranian patriot. U.S. money. You want to go and kiss of death. What do you mean?
We just don't want you to support the Mullahs and call them Iranians. They imagine you want to talk to Taliban and negotiate with Taliban in regard to the Afghanistan. Exactly what you're doing. Iranian Persian Iranians don't have the people they were not. They have been forced.
Well, I actually would enjoy talking to you more about this.
You have my card.
I have your card. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is your man?
Yes, sir. Pirouz, yes, Pirouz. Pirouz, Yazdi. Are you agreeing with that they want to change the regime by themselves? Only thing they want that the United States will not help them. They don't call, you must not call them Iranians. They are not. Like you want to go to negotiate with Taliban. They invaded our country. They changed, they are under the...
This is a Zoroastrian perspective.
He's talking to a woman whose father was a Syrian, so, you know.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I only wanted you to get to the question because I had so many hands. So, but thank you very much.
China. Creating conflict, problems, Iranian Arabian